I was just going to say, here's one that we all absolutely have to agree with, right? That President Trump is put into his plan, and that is to, all of a sudden, 2 months before the election, a month and a half before the election, the KKK would be labeled as a terrorist organization. But only if
That's
you
not that's not what the plan says.
only if you
Uh,
vote.
that's not what
That's
the
not
plan
that's not
says.
that's not in the plan. That's not
The
in the
plan is
plan.
not to designate the KKK as a terrorist agency. It says to prosecute the
Prosecute.
KKK and Antifa as terrorist organizations and make lynching a national hate crime. There's a
Antifa
difference.
never lynched anybody. I don't know who Antifa is, but I do know who the KKK is. So
Irrespective of that,
this
there's
should
a difference.
be a political issue.
But there's a difference between the organization of the KKK being labeled a terrorist organization, right?
Right.
Because if it's labeled a terrorist organization, that means if a person is indicted or accused of a crime, right, that there can be prosecutorial connections made with that organization. That prosecution of that terroristic prosecution, those terrorism laws will automatically kick in. But this particular bullet point is just saying that that would be effectively, it would be an option if we could tie if that person could be tied to the KKK.
And also another point to that, if an organization is labeled a terrorist organization, the FBI, the Department of Justice, has a legal responsibility to pursue, to investigate, to surveil, to pursue in the effort to infiltrate and disrupt and dismantle said terrorist organization.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Also,
I just don't see that
also
happening.
too,
I don't see that happening at all.
And also too, if with the anti-terrorism laws, if you or your family are victims of terrorist act, then you are then open up to being recipients of benefits, federal benefits, as a result of being a victim of a terrorist act. Just throw that out there.
Okay, I would like to switch gears. Can I switch gears right quick?
Why is that not designated today? Why do we have to make that a campaign promise?
Okay, but look at this, and you know that's why it's a campaign promise, because it's part of the platinum plan. So you already know he did that specifically. Look, for such a time as this. So you know why did it happen that way? Hey, but listen, I want to switch gears right quick because I want to get back to this, Philip. I want to get back to the discussion regarding to what he was saying about small businesses, and particularly Black small businesses. Now, I know that the belief is for at least a couple of you that you don't think he's going to make good on the plan. But I do want to ask this question. Let's say for small business, if he did make good, how would that change small business for Black people?
Oh, obviously that would be great. You think about what COVID has done to the Black business community. It's decimated Black-owned businesses. Some of those businesses will not return. It's estimated that 47% of Black-owned businesses went under or will go under within the next year as a result of just not having the cash flow and the funds. If President Trump were serious about making sure that Black businesses succeed, he's had 3.5 years to push forward an agenda that would uplift small Black-owned businesses and allow them to effectively partner and compete with mainstream businesses. But he's not. And so this is one of those things that could get caught up in legislation, just like Marcus said earlier. And then he could use it as a political tool or a political weapon against the opposing party to say, well, we wanted to do this, but the Democrats voted against it.
Yeah, and of course, if it doesn't come to fruition, that's exactly what he will say, because that is how his nature is. But let me say this though. Let me say this because I have to just throw this out there and say this. Now, we say and he's been there 3.5 years. Well, come on, a whole lot of presidents have been there 8 years, and this something like this has not been done. So I can't really just lean on his time in office in this regard, especially with the pandemic hitting this year. I don't think that piece can be a strong enough effective argument for that. Now, what Reginald said earlier in regards to him not making promises, not keeping his promises from from past his past legislation that he tried to put through of past promise not making good on. I can understand that, but saying that he's had 3.5 years, I have to lean back, and he's going to lean back on it, and others are going to lean back on it because they say, well, Biden has been in office for 47 years, and what has he
Well,
done? So you know, you have to be careful with that argument.
I understand, but let's be real clear. Biden has never been president. Uh, uh, Donald Trump has. And when Donald Trump first took office, the Republicans had control of the House and the Senate. So whatever was on your list of important things to do, including your promised wall, it could have been done. And let's be real clear about something. COVID-19 has opened a lot of people's eyes about what the federal government can do when the federal government wants to do it. Because in 3 weeks, the federal government appropriated $3 trillion. In 3 weeks, the federal government appropriated $3 trillion and has not given a minute's conversation as to where this money is coming from or where it will come back from. You know what I'm saying? And then even in the execution of your PPP plan, the first rounds, right? Your administration fought to keep secret where that money was going. And you ended up with mega corporations getting upwards of $400 million in loan. One single corporation got a loan that does not have to be paid back of $400 million and only returned it to the federal government when they were shamed via social media. But all of this small business plan that you have on this plan right now, where were they? If it's so important now, it should be a continuation of initiatives that you initiated. But when you had the chance, $3 trillion worth of chances to sow into the Black America or minority-owned businesses, where was your intent then?
Let's support that because President Trump signed, I think, 4.5 executive orders per month. That's in comparison to less than 3 by Barack Obama, President Obama. So President Trump is getting in there and taking care of the business of his constituents, right? So these last 3.5 years, so Jay, when you say I can't really look back and say everybody's had the same amount of time, but in that same amount of time, Donald Trump is using that time and going unilaterally more so than any other president in the past, with the exception of Roosevelt.
Oh, and just incidentally, we do have a question from the floor that asks, where is the second stimulus check? Since you brought that up earlier. So they said, where is my second stimulus check?
I want to push back a little bit, not push back, but I want to add a little bit of context, something that Dr. Bright brought up. And that is, even when Trump came into office, he ran as a Republican, won as a Republican. He didn't have the Republican support that a traditional Republican president would have had or should have had. The Republicans, there were still many who were against him and worked against him. Now, because he is the type of individual that he is, he's on Twitter saying wild, crazy stuff. He's in press conferences, he's on TV saying wild, crazy stuff. So a lot of people felt, I won't say felt, I can't speak to how they felt, but you could see there was pressure for them to shut up, Republicans. There's pressure for them to shut up and go along with the plan, because what other choice did they have? So when it comes to, as far as him getting his agenda signed, completed, checkboxing all of his promises, I don't know that any American president has ever done that or had the political cachet to get that done.
I would agree.
And so I don't want to say because his mouth is so big with the ego to match, I want to make sure I'm fair in putting him on the pedestal that he should be on with the rest of the presidents, right? And avoid this tendency to say, well, since you're so grandiose and you're so, vociferous about everything, therefore you should do X. No, I understand the position because I understand there is a check on your power. There is a check on your ability to do things, even when you have the power of executive order.
Mm-hmm.
So no president is going to come in and get all their promises made. So I have to put some of this stuff in context. I put some of it in context of, is that a broken promise, or is it something you just didn't get done for whatever reason? But there are some, I'm not trying to take away from your point. There are major things that he has not gotten done. But I'm saying, if I'm going to balance this platinum plan against an honest expectation that it's going to be pursued and much of it will be accomplished, then I have to look at that in the same respect as I would any president in their list of promises, right? And their list of things that they want to do, whatever their particular agenda is. I got to put this in the same and say, okay, 50% of this is going to be a casualty. Whatever this platinum plan is, 50% of it is probably not going to happen because you can't get it all done in 4 years. No one can. In 4 years, it's going to be somebody different with a different focus, a different agenda, probably from a different party, and we can't discount these guys do this for legacy. And so your opponents, the opposing team has to take away, they have to handicap, they have to kneecap your legacy. That's the nastiness of the political game. That doesn't mean we can't press and hold him accountable, because I do think we have a platinum plan. I think we got a plan as robust as what you're saying Biden's is, or as comprehensive as what Biden has, and this platinum plan from Trump. Because they got pressure. There's pressure. There's societal pressure. There's economic.
There's been societal pressure. There's been societal pressure for a while. Let's be clear. The type of pressure that produced this 2-page plan is polling. That's
okay.
the pressure. That's the pressure. And from whatever angle the pressure came, I'll accept. But what I will say is this: I would have to do some more extensive research to find exactly what legislation or what initiative that Donald Trump and his administration, that President Trump and his administration articulated was a desire to them that was even hinted at would not be supported by the Republicans in the House or the Senate. This is a man who fundamentally changed the Republican Party with regard to the, as my father would say, the character of the man that holds the office. Someone who admitted out of his own mouth that did not possess the family values that the Republican Party has stood on this pedestal for years, but they still kept their mouth shut and voted for that man. So when you vote him in, right, and you have not spoken out against him behind any other tweet, behind any other interesting comment that he might espouse or say, he still has your support. So again, I say, if any of this was intentional, if it was truly a desire of yours, you had the support. Because there was no the reason why Republicans are afraid, those who are in office right now, do not publicly speak out against some of the things that he has said and done, is because they are scared politically of his power in speaking to the base of the Republican Party. When this man would say, when any president would say that they don't know if they would peacefully transition if they lost an election, and nobody says anything but just one person in the Senate, there's a problem. There's a huge problem with that regard, right? Because to me, it is a slap in the face to the founding fathers and the founding of that America stands on democracy, number one, and then a rule of law. but we understand from times past and actions past that the law is quite ambiguous to President Donald Trump. And
Well, let me say this, because the argument, I've heard the argument that, you know, we say, of course, our government is democracy, but some would argue that it wasn't founded as a democracy but a republic.
yes, it is a republic.
So that can get a little bit too deep in the weeds if we're not careful with that. But I do want to say this about accountability. I have to mention this about accountability. I don't think that the American people, especially us, can continue to accept the excuse of, I wasn't able to get it done because the Democrats held it up. You know, I think that excuse, it's just not, it's not good enough. It's not going to be good enough, and it never really was. But you can't spend the next 4 years, if he gets reelected. You can't spend the next 4 years saying, I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this plan. Speaking of the specifically about the platinum plan, I wanted to do this. I wanted to get this done, but the Democrats held it up, because right now that is the excuse. We talking about the stimulus plan, the second stimulus or whatever. That's the excuse. Now, I wanted to do this, but the Democrats are holding it up. I wanted to do this, but the Democrats are holding it up. But in all actuality, the bill was originally passed. The second stimulus was passed inside of the House of Representatives, and then the Senate rejected it and pushed back on the bill. And they've been going back and forth since August, before they came out of session to try to get it redone. So we have to be careful about that.
Well, one of the things I want to add in, Jay, is that, you know, we really, you know, I'll kind of be jokingly here for a second. I think he wrote this plan for his African American, and it's for that one African American that's in the crowd at all of his rallies, that one African American that he thinks, you know, this plan will actually satisfy. Because if he really truly was intentional and genuine about this plan, there would be a road show. There would be a rally for Black Americans at every major stop to discuss this plan. There would be portions of this plan that he would put forward before the election to show that he's genuine. Give you an example. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau laid out a plan for Afro-Canadians to, you know, receive certain monies, lending, and some special treatment to correct some of the special mistreatment that they've suffered over the years. Justin Trudeau, for me, is like a lame duck prime minister of Canada. He doesn't have to do any of this stuff. As far as I know, from everything that I've heard about Canada, Black Canadians are happy, right? So yeah, they're working to correct some systemic racism that is going on, but they haven't suffered what Black Americans have. So if Donald Trump was genuine about this 2-page platinum chicken and malt liquor plan, he would have come out and really worked through this plan with Black America, with respected economists, along with the clergy, in order to make sure that this plan was something of value.
This plan is this, and this is something I brought to Julian on the phone. My problems, I'm a Black conservative, have been most of my adult life. My problems with conservatives, the conservative faction and the Republican Party, is this. To your point, Philip, if this was something that you truly felt were problems and needed to be addressed, and I'm gonna put this on my back as the president and I'm gonna make it right, there would be fanfare, there would be rallies, there would be everything else that we get. The problem is politicians in general, Republicans and conservatives specifically, have rejected even acknowledging the problem exists. We have been told for decades, there's no real problem with the criminal justice system. There's no institutional racism baked into that system. You know, if you're just obeying the cops and you're and you're not rolling with criminal element, everything is fine. It's going to be great. So part of this plan, this criminal justice reform and this federal prison reform, this is, I have to fix the thing I know is wrong, but I can't come out and say it's been wrong all this time.
And you've been presented with
telling us
multiple
it ain't wrong.
opportunities. Yeah.
What's that?
You've
What
been
you said?
presented with multiple opportunities to even speak the word that there is a problem. And I'm not saying to take blame, to take it on as you created the problem, but you are in a position that can speak to trying to resolve the problem.
And say, listen, the problem was here before I got here, but I would be doing a disservice to my oath of office and to my constituents and to the American people to continue to ignore it and say that there is no problem. Do you know how much clout you can get politically off of taking that stance and then doing the work and connecting with community leaders and talking to the economists and talking to the people who've been rolling up their sleeves and getting active in these communities and looking at the data and the stats, using the data and the stats to inform your policy, not claiming data and stats as policy, which is what we get. You know, when
there has been go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the things that upsets me, and this I came across recently, was the Innocence Project and the National Registry of Exonerations. Okay, there is empirical, statistical data to prove systemic racism when it comes to arrests, sentencing, the severity of sentences, and even when there's evidence to exonerate people, people are still serving longer. If they're black, they're serving longer sentences to get to the exoneration than their white counterparts. When you look at things that are pointed out, I said the number 1 and number 2 contributing factors to wrongful convictions is false and erroneous testimony and police misconduct. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem, and that's why I think I am glad that the conversation is being forced to be had at the national level, at the federal level. You got to say something. Slide in here, slide out of here in 4 years or 8 years and not say anything. You have to acknowledge it. Now that it's in writing, now that you're saying it, now we have been empowered. We are in a position because now we can hold you accountable, at least to some degree.
So let me say this.
Let me say this. I'm sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
With regard to admitting that there's a problem, especially within the vein of crime and punishment and justice, if the head of the Justice Department says under oath in front of Congress, a congressional committee, that he does not believe that there is institutional racism, there is a problem. There's a problem. If when he takes a break and C-SPAN widens the shot, his advisors, they come out to him and I applaud him, because I would want someone, if you're the Attorney General and you're testifying before Congress, I would want your advisors to be around you to make sure that you are giving it that the testimony you're giving is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But there's nobody that looks like me or any of my cousins sitting behind you. That's a problem. That speaks to, and I'm not saying that he does, that there is, but there is a willful avoidance of the conversation, and then a purposeful besmirching of the character of anyone who even draws the conversation or asks the question. They are deemed that's a nasty question, and you're a racist for asking me.
Yeah. So okay, so but wouldn't a plan like this, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, wouldn't a plan like this help to eliminate that?
Well, let me say, try to do
no.
Let me say this, and I'm gonna do
it. Let me Phil. Let me let Elijah chime in, because he's been kind of quiet. I'm gonna let him come on, chime in, sir. Come on.
Hey, y'all. I am sitting here and I'm just flabbergasted by all of you guys, and I'm listening and learning a whole lot. I'm not a political guy, but I've learned a whole lot just from sitting here listening to you guys. But to answer the question, I'm not sold. I'm not sold. I don't understand. Like Reginald said, how it can be, one thing all this time. Now, all of a sudden, come election time, you've come up with this grand plan. It's not even that grand. There's not a lot of details in it. But, I mean, it just seems like a scheme to me. And I don't think, looking at the plan that it's in and of itself, without the details, without the meat of the matter, without actual laws being changed and things like that, this is going to do nothing for us. That's how I see it. It's going to do absolutely nothing for us.
And let me try to summarize. Give me just 30 seconds or less. I'm listening to what everybody just said, and I just had an epiphany. Take a look at the names of these plans. Donald Trump's plan is called the Platinum Plan.
Yes.
Something shiny, some object that's shiny that catches your attention, that distracts you away from something of importance, right? And then if you take a look at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on, because black folks like platinum.
That's why
black folks like platinum.
Let's be clear.
Every voice plan, right?
Yeah.
Which has meaning, some symbolic meaning, and then it has these 26 pages supporting lift every voice. I don't know about you guys, but my ancestors, they traveled that stony road, and they bore the ancestors' whip. So there's something that ties back to the original sin of this country in this plan, this 26-page plan that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put together. So now let's go back to this flashy, this snake oil salesman, fly-by-night salesman's plan, which is called a Platinum Plan. No real substance to it, gentlemen. He's showing you who he is. And he's almost insulting, dang it, he is insulting the Black community by calling it the Platinum Plan. And like you said, with no real regard to the history of how we got here, with no acknowledgement of why we're in the condition that we're in, with no responsibility or accountability. This is a president who says, no, I don't take accountability for this stuff. So we have to be smart Black people. The only way that Donald Trump will get my vote is if he apologized to Black America tomorrow in church. Not only apologize to Black America, he's got to apologize to Barack Obama for stealing.
Wait a minute. He got to go to church and apologize. He can't do it.
It needs to be more than that. It needs to be a Jesus in the Jordan type situation where a dove sits on his shoulder, and I hear a voice from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Donald Trump, in whom I am well pleased." Well,
there are some, Reginald, there are some that would argue that the dove has already descended on Donald, and prophecies have went forth to make sure that he had already been anointed.
That is true, Julian. But what I will say to that is there are a lot of people in the backside of Ben Taub who hear voices too.
Ben Taub.
So guys, I mean, we've got to be smart.
Do your research on Ben Taub if you're not from Houston and you understand what I'm talking about. The backside of Ben Taub. And there is a reason why there are gates on the windows on the backside of Ben Taub. Those people.
Reginald, you have just killed me with that Ben Taub.
I love it.
I'm done for the night.
I love it.
All I'm saying, what I will say is, Phil, there is intention in calling it the Platinum Plan.
Let me chime in. Let me chime in on that. The Platinum Plan. Okay.
We love platinum.
My God.
I'm gonna defend Donald Trump on this. I'm gonna defend Donald Trump on this.
On the Platinum Plan.
On the Platinum Plan.
Because we sell them in funeral homes all the time.
Listen, I will defend this because I have personal experience with this. Platinum is especially in real estate circles, it is a heavily used term.
Mm-hmm.
My former life, I worked for a person who sold real estate investing training material. Okay, so we, as a company, we taught people how to set up their LLCs, how to find properties, how to do real estate investing. One of our most our most sold plan was the platinum plan. It was positioned that way. And when you in that real estate mastermind, all these guys that sell master classes and they sell masterminds, these $80,000, $100,000, $90,000 once a month meeting classes, this type of stuff. Most of them have names like platinum, platinum, diamond. The platinum plan, I think calling it the platinum plan is something he's pulling from his real estate days and that real estate investing world, because this is bandied about heavily in that. And I have seen it, and I've seen it from several real estate gurus. Platinum plan setup.
Yeah, and I'll concede that. But I'm gonna get, if I can, for about 10 or 20 seconds, get real deep into something, right? And it's a 2-word phrase. It makes the hair on a lot of people's neck stand up. And I will say cultural appropriation.
Yes.
Because for a long time, the gold standard was gold. But hip hop culture, rap culture, started putting importance on platinum. And that's when platinum became common nomenclature for the top. Again, the word platinum comes from the within our own culture that we created, right? So I don't blame him for calling it platinum. But what I would like to call attention to is the vast majority of individuals outside of the African American diaspora, when they hear platinum, their minds go to the rap culture, the hip hop culture, the chains, the rings, the diamonds, you know what I'm saying? The diamond platinum grills, right? And it's called attention to for the few African Americans who have been able to make their own way in this American system by selling records, right? And there is a perception that goes along with hip hop culture, right? That is not necessarily smiled or liked in white America, which is the same reason why Donald Trump, when he's speaking to the suburban women, saying that Cory Booker is going to bring everybody from the inner city to destroy your beautiful suburbs. Okay, so let's understand. So there's a connection and a meaning to the black community with the word platinum, but then there is also a cultural reverence that's given to the phrase "lift every voice." So it means platinum means the platinum standard, and can also be hearkened to that cultural appropriation of taking Black culture and applying it to the daily lives of real estate and funeral plot settings and extended warranties on vehicles, because there's platinum extended warranties on vehicles, right? So that appropriation. And then there's also the lift every voice, right? That has the meaning, that has that cultural connection to what we as Black Americans claim as our Black national anthem, right? And then also just the phrase, the meaning, lift every voice. It's not saying that my voice is more powerful or should be listened to more, but every voice. And what I will say is this, what I will applaud is this, and I've said this before, and I want to be real clear about something. I do not discount the voices of Black Americans within the Republican Party, because if we are not in the room, we don't know what they're saying about us. The problem is when you sit quietly in the corner and let everybody around you say what they're going to say and not speak up. And I will say I've been guilty of that myself. You're not wanting to be the angry Black man, not wanting to be the representative of all Black America, and we let some things slide and let this person say this because they've been real good friends with yada yada, or they've adopted this African American child, or that type of thing, where we give allowances and freedoms to certain individuals when we were called it into court, when we should be opening our mouth and defending those individuals that have just been disparaged right in front of our own eyes. And so that's my problem. I don't have a problem with you being a part of the Republican Party. I don't have a problem with you supporting Trump. What I do have a problem with is when we allow individuals within our organizations that we've become members of to stand and say things that has an adverse effect on the majority of people who look like us, right? Who are treated like us. And if we weren't standing beside you, and if we're not standing beside you at the time, you will be treated just like George Floyd. You'll be treated just like Ahmaud Arbery. If the Attorney General of Kentucky was running in basketball shorts and a t-shirt in Georgia, they would not have cared that he was the Attorney General of Kentucky. They wouldn't have cared that he supported Trump. He'd have been just what he is, another black man on the street. Let's be real clear about it. It's one thing to be in an organization, but it's another thing to keep your mouth shut when you're in there. Open up your mouth and represent who you represent.
100%.
Let me say this. With that said,
and before we get there, and I'm not saying that the problem has to be something that you directly experience. However, if you find yourself the only black person in the room, why not take up on yourself the responsibility to speak to those black Americans who you know are experiencing the things that we're experiencing, and not let somebody else stand beside you or have you standing behind them as decoration and espouse these things and disparage and call what we experience a lie. That's the problem that I have with the majority of black Republicans, is because you allow your Republican brothers and sisters to continue to spout things out of their mouth, and you do not call them on their crap.
They're not getting checked. Yep.
We have too many Democrats who will turn and tell somebody. We have people in Democratic Party right now who won't support Joe Biden, won't support Kamala Harris, simply because of the decision that they have made or an action that they took years past, and they are vocal about it. That's the difference. That's the difference.
Hey, go ahead, Elijah.
Well, let me give a little bit of light to that, because I think I said at the beginning when I introduced myself that I have been a worship leader in multicultural churches. And I've had the opportunity to lead worship with a white pastor, with a black pastor, with white congregants, black congregants, Hispanic congregants, Republicans, Democrats, everybody. I've had the opportunity to do that. And I personally, myself, have taken it upon myself to be that person who didn't say anything. And I think the reason why and now I may, I'm not saying that I didn't feel things. I'm not saying that I didn't agree with a lot of the Black agenda and the things that we're dealing with as a community. But in those situations, I think what happens is, one, there's pressure. I think you deal with a lot of pressure, especially when people who are over you or in leadership are white. So my pastor was white. He was a strong Republican. He is a Trump supporter, and I'm not a Trump supporter, but again, I'm also not against him. The same abhorrence I have for Trump, I have for Biden as well. But so I think people run into those situations where they have, they're dealing with pressure. They're afraid, to speak up and to say what they say, their truth and how they feel about things. I know I was, being quiet, when those conversations were being had. But to be honest with you, when I look back, I regret it.
Mm.
I look back and I regret, and I wish I would have had the audacity to say the things that I really felt needed to be said, not just because of my fellow Black congregants who needed my voice, but my fellow white congregants who needed it as well, because they didn't have a clue.
That's the key.
And me being quiet didn't help them at all. So they clearly didn't have a clue of what I was going through.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's the key.
I think with
Because
that
half the
said though,
times in
in order
black,
to, I would say, in order to have that voice, there has to be a really strong strength from within to overcome that fear or hesitation. Because in a lot of cases, when you're in that room because they have either they're paying you, or you're most of the time they're paying you, or you're put there for somewhat of a personal reason, maybe even to fulfill a quota.
Okay.
Now, when I say this, that's one of the reasons why I feel like Black empowerment, Black economic empowerment is so important. Because if you are already strong monetarily, and you're not worried about what a person might say because you speak out, if you have your own ownership of things, your own house, your own business, maybe, or whatever, if you have all these things that you own, you're not as afraid to speak out and say what it is that you feel, because you already have your own. You have a sense of ownership with there. So I think that's important, and I'm glad, Elijah, you said that, because it's important to bring that out, because it is an issue. Because I've been in places too where I've been in places where I didn't speak out, and been in places where I did. Guess what happened when I spoke out? I lost my job.
I would, I understand that, and that is a true fear. But what I will say is this: um, there is power in relationship and connectivity, right? Um, uh, if Julian and I are not just friends, but we are family. Our mothers were sisters. Um, if I'm driving down the road and I see Julian walking or driving down the road, and I know that there's a big pothole, or there's let's just say we're going to meet each other, right, for lunch, and I see a big accident and traffic is starting to stack up. I'd be less than a friend if I didn't text him or call him safely, because I'm driving. If I didn't text him or call him and say, hey man, there's a big accident right there, 1960 and 45. So he can then either, if he still decides to go on that road, he won't be blindsided. He know that it's there, or he can reroute his way around. This is the thing. When there's relationship, they may not necessarily agree with what you
That's
said.
right. That's
But
right.
what they won't do is they won't kick you out the room for saying it, if there is true relationship. And W.E.B. Du Bois say all learning is relationship. And
And it
sometimes,
reminds me. It reminds me of the story. I don't know if you all know the story of Esther. Esther had the voice of the king, right? She had the ear of the king. And what did
mm-hmm,
she use? She used her influence. She used her position to speak to the king and get
for
and
her
for the
people,
Israelites, for her people,
for her,
for her
and
people. And that's
she
what we have to do.
articulated it,
That's
for
right.
my people.
That's right.
But it was something of Esther's that the king wanted, huh?
Leave it. But look, leave it, leave it to Elijah to bring it back to worship, though. I
I
appreciate
was
that,
just
man.
about to bring it to worship, brother. I was just about to bring it to scripture, because when I'm saying be a representative for your people, just as the Bible says that we are walking the epistles read of men,
That's right.
that some people in this world won't know the gift of God unless they see it in our lives. Some people will not know that the struggle of Black America is real until they hear it from you, right?
That's right.
Because they don't respect, there is no relationship with nobody else. That's why you hear so many people, so many non-black people say, "Oh, well, I got a lot. I'm not racist. I have a black friend." Okay, well, has that black friend uh, clued you into something? Have you then taken the opportunity to initiate a conversation with your black friend?
Yep.
Donald Trump has a black American. You know, our black Americans, we love our black Americans. Have you sat down and talked to Diamond and whatever her name is? Right?
Are you referring to Diamond and Silk?
Yeah.
Um,
Have you sat down and talked to Diamond and Silk? What making
I,
you
I,
click?
I don't
I
know, but
mean,
let me bring it back to Esther right quick. I have to bring it back to Esther because as he brought it up, there was a conviction that Esther put in her own spirit and mind and said, "I'm going to see the king," and then she says, "If I die, I die. You know, if I perish, I perish. But I gotta go." And I think and I think Phil and I talked about this too, that a lot of things that happened in this year has I think, I mean, maybe in Reginald, has awakened us to the place where
100%.
we say, you know what,
It's
this is what it took for me to wake up to see that there is something missional that I have to take
Mhm.
up on the inside of me to
That's
push
right.
through this.
That's right.
No matter what's going on, if I have to be sacrificed, or if other things have to be sacrificed in me and around me, that's what's going to take, because it's more. It has to be more than just me. See, what I see when I look at the Republican Party, I look at them as saying, listen, they look at the country as, we own this country, and that's why I said let's take it back, because they feel like they own it. And so the things that they put in place, from what I've seen, is so that they can build their own legacy. And so this is a transfer from my generation to the next generation to the next generation. What we have to do, and this is how I feel when it comes to Black people, we have to take up on that same mindset with our own people, that listen, it has to be bigger than us. When we go to jobs, when we build our businesses, when we build our families, it has to be bigger than me just getting everything I want right now. I have to prepare for 2 generations after me. I have to look at it and say, listen, I'm responsible to building a legacy and leaving something for my children and for my children's children, and not just depend on just for me. And I think that has been lost, because we've gotten caught up in the bling. We got caught up in getting the bag for ourselves, and we have not gotten back to the place to where it can't just be about you. It has to be to those who are coming after us, not just
Julian, let me
you.
say this. Let me say this. I can't even say that it's ever been lost. We've never really had it. Not since
Okay.
slavery. I do think that we're getting better and we're getting closer. And I do believe that we are now in a place where blacks are beginning to build their legacies and things like that. But it's hard for us to teach our children, things that we didn't learn ourselves. And so it's taking generations for us to pull ourselves up out of this rut that started generations ago. But I do believe we're getting there.
I believe we're getting there, and that I was just about to take it there a little bit. I've said this before with Phil and Julian in other conversations, but go with me for a little while. That
Okay, so Reginald is a preacher too, so he's a preacher
that
too. So go with me.
that inability to work together and to come up with a decisive plan that's going to benefit everybody, and instead of not just that for meism, um, that is something I truly believe is a byproduct of the systems that were put into place within the institution of slavery.
Absolutely.
Because when we think about it, right, on the plantation, there's 5 black male slaves, right? We know from days and months and years past, somebody gonna get beat tonight. The only way that I cannot be the one to get beat, because I've got beat before and I don't want that to happen again. The only way that I can save myself from not getting beat is to pick more cotton than Julian, Don, Marcus, and Elijah. I gotta pick more cotton than you. The only way that I can save my wife from getting raped tonight is by picking more cotton than Julian, Philip, Marcus, and Elijah, with enough to spare to sneak into my wife's bed that she has now outpicked Julian's wife, Philip's wife, Marcus's wife, and Elijah's wife. That spirit, that competitiveness has been ingrained into us, right? And then the breaking of the black family, that has been ingrained in us because Julian was made because he was stronger, right? Julian was made to lay with Marcus's wife because she was stronger. Because we weren't seen as human, we weren't seen as men, we weren't seen as men, we were seen as livestock. So it was a breeding type thing. I need some strong slaves to pick some cotton. So that competitiveness has been rooted in us. And so we're just now coming to to the light, right? And so it's happening. I applaud that it's happening. But let's be clear. The breaking of the African American family was done intentionally. And when it seemed like black families were coming together, here comes the man in house rule within the confines of the crack cocaine and heroin epidemic, right? And then it's you put in place the man in house rule that divides and breaks up the African American families, because the African American family who may need some government assistance, who we understand are not the majority that's receiving government assistance, but they may need government assistance, right? And so they now don't qualify for government assistance because there's a man in the house. That happened under Reagan. Another thing that happened under Reagan was the perpetuation of the stereotype of the welfare queen being the black female, when the majority of Americans on welfare were white and still are white, because the majority of Americans are white. It's just a law of probabilities, a law of percentages, right? And so all of these systems that have been put in place it may have started out as intentionally to keep us down, but now they're in place. I don't necessarily believe to keep us down, but to keep them up. So the intention now is not to keep everybody else down, but it's I got to stay on top. We got to take our country back. Let's make America great again.
Yeah, I don't.
While a black
still,
man
I
was
still,
in office.
That make America great again still doesn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense because I'm trying to figure out where you're trying to take us back to. Because I mean, only place we can go back
When
to
did
for
it
the
stop
black
being
man.
great?
Yeah, when did it stop being great?
It
So
stopped being great when the black man was elected president. So now we got to make America great again.
Yeah, I don't understand. Now that I don't get, and I I didn't get my MAGA hat, so I don't have one of those. So I've never understood that thing. But I do believe that the answer to one of the solutions, rather, to all of this goes back to ownership.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Us owning
Yeah.
our own home, owning our own business.
Let me
You know, one of the solutions, not all of them, but one of them. And let me say this too. Also, since we talked about the black family being split, another thing that helps with the solution is the black family coming back together. Us learning how the black men learning how to respect the black woman, the black women learn again how to respect the black men, because the rift has been in between us for so long. I never forget about when I was having these discussions before, and these black ladies were telling me how when they get on an elevator, if there's a lot of black men on the elevator, they won't get on because they don't feel like they're protected. Now, where they get that from wasn't really from us, but it's our duty to fix it, to repair it. That mentality should not be. The black women should feel like that if a black man is in the room, they won't be disrespected. Because I'm gonna tell you, when the white counterparts, they're gonna defend their white woman.
Yeah.
You know, so some of those things have to change. I would say at least those two solutions: ownership and repairing the black family. Go ahead, Marcus.
I was gonna chime in on ownership and talking about the respect. I think the respect actually needs to start at black men respecting themselves first.
Okay, nobody.
Respect black women and black women respecting
I'll come
themselves.
get you when I'm done. All right.
And black women respecting themselves before they can respect black men.
Go. You gotta go. You gotta go, buddy.
Have
You gotta go.
You're not muted, Julian.
You gotta mute, Julian.
Sorry.
That's all right. We've been inculcated with self-hate.
Yeah.
And then presented with images of what we are supposed to be, not from ourselves. And so when you ask the average young black man, what does it mean to be a man? What does manhood mean? You know, what does womanhood mean? We don't know. We didn't know. We weren't taught. Collectively, we weren't taught. Many of us were, or had a sense of it, especially if we were raised in religious households or we grew up with fathers or strong father figures in our life. You know, if you grew up with a strong grandfather, strong uncles, you know, if your biological father wasn't on the scene, then you got a sense of that a lot of times, or I would say more often than not, as compared to young men who grew up without strong father figures. But I think it starts with loving ourselves and understanding and respecting ourselves and realizing our own worth and self-value.
And
I think that's happening. I think that's happening,
it's happening
with this year, especially with all the stuff that's happened this year. That's happening.
Yeah.
I agree.
People are starting to wake up and see that.
Also, too, it's happening because there's been a resurgence in researching the power and the importance of the Black or the enslaved Africans within the founding and within the operation of the United States of America. However, at the same time, when we have this 1619 project that sheds light on a lot of this that's gone on, then we have individuals standing up to say that it's un-American to talk about 1619. And so you are calling it brainwashing. And then now you present, before you present the Platinum Plan, you present a patriotic plan of education, right? Or the 1776 plan, right? That's what you present, as opposed to the 1619 that throws away what we already know is true. And Marcus alluded to it already, data, going and being data driven. Well, if you don't agree on the data, if you call the truth a lie and the lie a truth, what do we have?
Listen,
We can't even agree that we can't even admit that enslaved Africans arrived in 1619 when we know it's true. When we know it's true. So
And this country, and we have to admit the truth also too, that this country was built on protest. This country was built on protest. It was built on bloodshed.
Violent protests.
Yes, bloodshed.
Violent, blood-shedding protests.
Yes.
Cultural appropriation protests. Because when the Sons of Liberty in Boston decided to illegally go onto a privately owned tea company ship and toss that tea over the side, they weren't in their Sunday best. They intentionally rubbed their wives and their own shoe polish on their face. They took the linens off of their dining tables. They took plants and feathers and put in, and they perpetrated themselves as Native Americans, as Indians, or as they would call them in their writing, in their diaries, the savages, right? That's what they did. So there is a track record, right, of casting blame and blaming somebody else for what you yourself are doing.
Yep.
So I'm doing it.
It's called hypocrisy. It's called hypocrisy.
It's more than just hypocrisy. It's more than just hypocrisy. It's worse than that.
The difference is they won. That's the difference. They won. So now the Boston Tea Party is celebrated.
I don't celebrate.
It's celebrated. It wouldn't have been celebrated had they not won, but they won, so it's celebrated.
Let me add this in, because you guys touched on empowerment, and then you talked about respect between Black men and women. With the empowerment front, you know, the Biden plan lays out data. It lays out facts. You know, the wealth gap between the Black community and the white community is wide and ever widening. The Trump plan does not address that. He wants to give you silver in hopes that you'll, you know, take it and run with it, and it's only going to last you a couple of days. So, you know, we know that, you know, there is a problem, there is a deep chasm, and the Biden plan seeks to go out and put in place, initiatives to help close that gap. Now, with the gap between the Black man and the Black woman, you're right, Marcus. You know, it starts first with the Black man. Pull up your pants. You know, look presentable. You know, be about more than just sports. Be about more than just, you know, hip hop and what's cool and what's hot. You know, really build ourselves up intellectually. Build ourselves up so that we can be a perfect partner for the black woman. I'll point out that in the state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, he went and he changed a law that he himself put in place to get a white woman out of jail. How many black men do you know have that type of power and moxie? You know, you know what? I made this law, but I'm going to change it just so I can get this pretty white woman out of jail up in Dallas. That's how far they are willing to go to protect white women. A white woman walks into, a young man's home, shoots and guns him down. They come up with the castle doctrine to protect this white woman. How far are we willing to go to protect our black women? I know how far I'm willing to go, but collectively, black men have to step up. We have to do our part in order to match their efforts to protect white women.
And it speaks to the opportunities that or the opportunities that white men are given to protect white women, and the opportunities that black men are given to disrespect black women. The case in Kentucky, Breonna Taylor, and we only understand this because her ex-boyfriend's attorney and her family got together and released the document where in an effort to justify, right, the killing of Breonna Taylor, they offered him a plea deal to if only he would just say that Breonna Taylor knew what he was doing. And he said, I'm not going to lie and say, because she did it. All right. And then, you know what I'm saying? It's that type of thing. We're now starting to see where African-American men are now starting to see the power and the regalness of African-American women. The incident with the comedian Ricky Smiley when they were in Florida, there's a beautiful example of how an African-American man can still be the strong African-American man he wants to be, and then protect and stand up for and demand respect for the African-American female. When I was young, I think I was probably about 12 or 13 years old. It's an incident that I opened my eyes as to the expectation of the black man supporting and defending the African-American woman. I was in the grocery store with my mother. Again, I was maybe 12, 13, maybe 14 years old. In the grocery store, had just gone into the store, and so we're there in the produce section. She's picking out cabbage. Some man, Anglo man, white man, as she was crossing in front of him with her cabbage in her hand, headed to put it in the basket, ran and she said, I didn't see it because I was, over there stealing grapes. But anyways, well, not stealing grapes. I was testing the grapes to see if they were fit for consumption for that day for purchase.
Come on, doctor. Come on,
anyways,
doctor.
So as I'm there as being quality control for the Dole Corporation with inside of Kroger's, there was an incident that went down in which my mother reported that the gentleman bumped into her with the cart. So she complained to the gentleman. My mother was not one of these individuals who would fly off the handle and use any type of profane language, but she got her point across. She was that type of person. And so she complained to him. She complained to the manager, and then they threatened to call if you want me to call the police, you can. No, you don't need to call the police. But I just want you to know that this particular customer, this is how he's acting. Well, all of that to say, my mouth was silent. Me, number one, I was raised in a house, stay in a child's place. Okay? When I get home, the conversation that my father had with me as to how disappointed he was, so much so that he was angered that I did not open up my mouth and say anything to protect and to uphold in my defense was, Daddy, I didn't see it. I don't care if you didn't see it. Your mama said it happened. Your mama don't lie. So if your mama said it happened, it happened. Well, Daddy, what should I have done? I don't know. Well, Daddy, what would you have done? I don't know what I would have done. But what I do know is that man would have apologized. So it's the expectation that's set within our families, right? It's that lesson that's learned, right? That needs to happen. And we're now coming into the knowledge of it, right? Because not everybody had that example. Not everybody got sat down and talked to and voiced their frustration to that you did not, in my absence, be my representative as the man that's attached to your mother, right? That not everybody has that example, but we're having that conversation can be had. And when we learn our history and the things that Black men have endured, right, to protect and still support our Black families. And then when we start to see it, when we read the real history that of things that have been put in place, the redlining, right, the the shipping in, the flying in of crack cocaine, right? All of that type of things that's going on, the criminalization of certain things. Because in one while, alcohol was against the law. But too many people liked alcohol. Too many of the right people liked alcohol. So they made it legal. For the longest time, marijuana has been outlawed.
Listen,
But too many people like smoking marijuana now. And it's legal first in California and Colorado, of all places.
Colorado first, Washington State second, then California. Seattle, Washington being the second in America, but we'll put that to the side. Getting back to prohibition, and I gotta go, gentlemen. I gotta put my little one to bed. Talk about prohibition, we have an entire sport, and blue-blooded Confederate flag flying, well, not anymore, sport that was born of the people who were breaking the law to transport the illegal substance. The NASCAR is.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if we had a national sport that came out of selling base and flipping rocks in the west side of Chicago, where I'm from?
It's called corporate America.
Well, it's called football. That's how you learn how to jump over a lineman. That's how you learn how to evade somebody that's running after you to tackle you with that pigskin.
Let me support two things. First, what Reginald said earlier about respecting the Black women. If you take a look at, the situation with Breonna Taylor, because of his actions, I hold in higher regard Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend, more so than I do Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Even with all that he has accomplished, any other time he would make the Black community proud. But when he turned his back on that sister, he has lost out. In my eyes. As far as what Marcus is saying, what's really, interesting about America is that they will criminalize those things, in our community. Even though they are running drugs through our community, they will criminalize our activities and punish us. And I think that is a part of the design of the systems that Reginald talked about earlier, those systems that are designed to oppress and keep us down, but uplift others. So, we've got to start, really start connecting with these things that have happened to our community, think them through, and then figure out how to rewire them and reverse them so that we can change and transform our community.
Yeah, and fellas, we're at 2 hours, so I know that we gotta roll, gotta run out of here. But I do want to speak to this, especially with the Breonna Taylor issue going on, that thing that happened. Listen. It lets you know how important the local elections are. We always talk about the president, who's going to be president, who's going to be in office, but we don't push enough in regards to getting the right people in the local, inside of the local elections for us, who speak for us, because we keep talking about, well, Trump this, Trump that, Biden, Obama, and all that, but can we name our local judges? Can we name our council people? Can we name our school board leaders? Do we know who they are, what they're about, what they stand for? Can we do that on a general basis? We need to push our community to do better in regards to having a stronger voice in the things that are local and close to us. Do we know the policemen that police our neighborhood?
And,
You know,
and deeper than that, it's one thing to know who they are by name and or by
have
face.
have relationship, have
It
relationship.
have
Yeah,
relationship with them as well, but it goes even deeper. Yeah, you may know who these people are, but do you know how much power they have? Do you know how much political and legal and municipal power they have over the governing of your life? Right? The installation, something as small as the installation of a stop sign on your street, so your kids can ride the street, ride their bikes down the sidewalk. The something as simple as the cameras at a red light. When we all, at nighttime, we just go up to that rolling stop. You know what I'm saying? Uh, or that time that, I mean, there's nobody in the intersection. Why I still got to stay at this red light when I'm turning left? You know what I'm saying? That, but we won't go because there's a camera there, right? Something as simple as that. Something as simple as,
camera.
or more complicated, knowing who and what individual really in the state of Texas has the most power. Understanding that a lot, the majority of the power is held with the lieutenant governor and not the governor, because the lieutenant governor puts the things on the docket to be voted on and to be signed into law. And then look at this. Understand how some states intentionally set their gubernatorial and legislative uh, elections on what they call off-year elections or the midterm elections, because they know that the attention is always there on presidential time. So I'm not going to put our election this time because too many people will vote, right? You know what I'm saying? It's that type of conversation that needs to be had. And we need to look at that, right? If we want somebody to follow through on their promises to us and we want to hold them accountable, let's give them all of the ammunition that they need and the support that they need to get that thing done. I appreciate the conversation on tonight, Julian. Thank you for inviting me.
Man, I'm so glad y'all were able to make it. I know that both Elijah and Marcus had to go, family obligations. So I totally understand that. But I'm really grateful that y'all came on. It was a great conversation. I'm looking at the comments and so many uh, who jumped on here and enjoyed the conversation. It was informative for them uh, and give them a voice and gave us a voice. I think, like I said, I think it was important for us to talk about this, not from a standpoint of being ourselves in a political arena or be a celebrity, but with us being in the middle class, who most of the laws that are happening now affect us directly. So I think that was good for us to have these conversations about this. So I really appreciate you coming on, Brother Dunn and Dr. Wright. So glad that they able to make it. Brother Elijah who had to go, Brother Marcus who had to go. I really appreciate y'all, man, for hopping on this journey with me. Any closing thoughts before we head up out of here? Any closing thoughts?
Well, thank you, Julian and Dr. Wright. I'm so proud to call him Dr. Wright now. Really, this was a very important conversation. And for us to sit here and talk about this on a Saturday night, it shows that we've done the homework. We've gone through, we've taken a look at the plans, we've compared them, we've contrasted them. We've taken a look at our community's current condition, and we need more people doing this work. Because you are an instrument of our community. You go out and you vote and you elect public officials, or if you don't vote, you elect them by default. And so we need more people engaged in this type of an activity in order to affect change. Last thing I'll say is that, next time we have this conversation, we need to have some sisters at the table. They are very important and an equal voice in our community. And I think that, we can bring some folks together who can inspire others and inspire more people from both, genders,
Okay,
to
that's
put.
coming up next. That's definitely coming. Yeah, we got to have it. We got to have
We
the
need
sister.
we need a full, but not just a. We need a full. We need to hear their perspective in our absence, and then maybe we can come together jointly. But we've given an opportunity to the black male. Let's go ahead and get a panel of black females, because it's something special about that black girl magic.
That's
Um,
right.
that
That's right.
when
That's right.
something needs to get done and get done
In a hurry.
well, and in a hurry, effectively, you call in a black woman, and that thing could get done.
Amen.
Appreciate it, man. And listen, thank y'all again for coming. Thank y'all again for coming and sharing your thoughts and concerns. I told you, intelligent black men, intelligent black conversation. This is great on tonight. I appreciate you, all of you who have shared and enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, share, comment. Make sure that if you're coming in from Facebook, make sure you like the channel. And click the like button so you'll know when we have more stuff coming in. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe to this channel so you'll know when we have more information and more videos uploaded, so that you'll have the information as soon as we put it out. All right, thanks so much. Until the next video, be empowered.